You know, when I'm drinking hard, I like to hydrate. You know, no one has posted hydrate in this channel since I started drinking this because everyone, I think, is intimidated. They're like, you know, I don't need to tell that guy to hydrate.
It's a chat right now. Yeah, hey Jesse, we thought we would watch your YouTube is burying it video.
Yes.
I mean, you're here. Is it okay if we do that?
Well, now you're just making it weird.
Jesse Cox said, I thought it was funny. I loaded up YouTube to see you live and my name, and I was like, oh?
Oh, where am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah, we're
going to have a conversation, but we're required to, be learned.
Yeah, behind the scenes, we were like, what are we going to talk about today? And I was like, well, obviously I want to talk about the Helldivers 2 weekend war. And then we've been wanting to talk about sexy games in general because of Stellar Blade. And just the I would say the more fun side of that conversation, because there's some weirdness and some cringe.
You don't say.
But yeah, and so since you've got a video, since Jesse also has a video out about the subject of sexy games, we figured we haven't done any React anything in a while, so why not? But yeah, so I kept saying I was going to watch it, and I hadn't gotten around to it, and you were like, well, let's just
watch it.
Let's just do the streamer thing.
You know, it looks informative.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. I, for one, need the views. So that's the agreement. All right, everybody. That's the agreement we're all going to make today is that we're going to watch the video.
But you start your own copy.
Your own copy.
And then pause it when we pause it to hang out with us.
Yep.
But then, keep playing it and make sure you watch the whole thing beginning to end.
And leave a like.
And leave a like and a comment, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know how deep this goes.
I'm getting us going. We're going to be scandalous today. We need to ease into it. I'm just helping you.
I can
start it up.
I'm going to be me today. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not going to be unintentionally scandalous.
I'm going to be me, but the theater kid me. And not like like aim on me or anything, but it's going to be people. There are people in this channel who are like, I thought Kyle was a dad. Oh, how does he know about that? It's like, well, I'm a theater kid first, and that's how I made children second. And I married a theater kid too. So,
Oh yeah, get your aren't they marrieds out of the way now.
If you want to talk about sexy things, I'm there.
Yeah, nobody in a relationship can comment on sexual content.
What's this? Oh, because you're married, you can't. Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, you can't comment on sexual content.
No, because it steals the, it's their superpower.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you won't want to take that from them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't get it.
It's just how it is.
I don't get it. I don't get why this stuff gets put into a different bucket than all of the normie relationships out there that watch, shit like Game of Thrones that has extremely explicit sex scenes.
I also love... And I've loved them since I worked in a bookstore. I love romance novel memes. They're so raunchy. They're so funny. They're like, it's...
I don't know anyone who actually reads that stuff.
My face when the two characters have to share one bed in the inn at night. Like, just all those, like, the romance people are so unapologetic.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our Clips and Highlights channel. If you want to keep up with everything Kyle and I have going on, make sure you subscribe to the main Grinding Gear YouTube channel, which is where we actually do these streams. That's right, we stream right here on YouTube. Oh, and sub to the Grinding Gear podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, really any podcast platform. We're probably there. Thanks. Okay, cool. Well, shall we start with Jesse's video, and then we can kind of talk, kind of launch in.
Yes, so that would give us a basis of understanding collectively as a community to have the conversation, which I guess is being had, but my thought is just like everyone found it really fun because arguing about things that aren't fun, so they're like, what, let's talk about things we all like. Sexy things.
Well, there was definitely some unfun arguments going on here. But yeah, okay, so to fully attribute this, shout out to Jesse Cox. Good dude. We should really have him on sometime. I'd love to.
Maybe. Yeah. Sometime.
So yeah, we've been hemming and hawing about having a conversation about sexy games because Stellar Blade came out and opened up that whole topic to be a hot topic, as one were, like one you talk about, not a place where you go and buy chain wallets. And yeah, so Jesse put out this video called The Rise of Adult Video Games on Steam. It's a little over 15 minutes. And my understanding is he's really had to hit the pavement to get views on this because YouTube keeps kind of suppressing it because it thinks it's inappropriate.
It got reported or something, right? Like the robots attacked it? Something
like that. And I believe he then even talked to somebody and then it got re-unleashed to the world, but then it just seems like it's being suppressed. It's not showing up organically for anyone.
Yes. So, but that would have to be, it's probably someone like reported it, right? They pressed the button and said, "Oh, report this video."
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe,
but
and
it's probably that same person who was like, "Whoa, bear sex. Oh, oh my God! Who put bear sex in my game? Bear sex? Oh,
don't. Here's an idea. Just don't play Baldur's Gate
or don't have sex with a bear.
Also, it's your choice in that game.
Like seriously, like what are the chances?
This is where we're starting.
So what are the chances someone's gonna see this and be like, "Holy shit, that is my thing. I'm doing it." They like stand up out of their chair. They're like, "I'm gonna go have sex with a bear. I am inspired." This point, Larian Studios.
This man does not fear being clipped. No fear being clipped.
Larian Studios told me that this would be a good time, and I am so into it.
And that's how we end up with that scene in Super Troopers.
Which one?
Attention, bear fucker. Do you require assistance?
Oh. Okay.
So let's watch Jesse's video before we launch into our own discussion about sexy games. This is The Rise of Adult Video Games on Steam, and I think the levels are about where I want them, where the video should be a little quieter than our own commentary. Here we go.
So, I'm sure you've noticed, there's a lot of adult games on Steam, huh?
This is already fantastically edited.
Now, maybe it's because I'm the producer of a video game where one of the endings is a monster orgy, but I don't know. I feel like this is an every person thing. That or I'm just some sort of pervert, which over the last couple of years, especially post-pandemic, there seems to be a noticeable increase in the amount of adult-oriented games showing up on Steam
video?
In the under $10 category.
We're at 30 seconds. It's 15 minutes.
Okay. So he's probably not going to get that's fascinating.
What? Probably not going to get, and then you cut yourself off.
I don't expect in a 15-minute video we're going to get into why the pandemic caused adult games to take off, but that is a fascinating topic.
Well, we should find out.
Yeah, let's find out.
We should find out.
Are you all ready to continue? Are we ready?
I think that, yeah,
okay.
let's continue.
Right, let's continue.
Remixed in with titles like Sonic Adventure 2, KOTOR, and Vampire Survivors, you'll find games like Wedding Witch, a game very similar to the previously mentioned Vampire Survivors, except
pretty
with
well made.
not safe for work gameplay. Or Love and War Hero by Chance 2. I cannot believe there's a 2. A tactical RPG where your victories are rewarded with naughty PNGs. There's dating sims, match 3 games, card games, everything you can think of.
Oh, wow.
Pretty positive reviews. In fact, one of the funniest things I read was some guy's negative review about how the erotic scenes in Love and War were a little too BDSM for him. And mind you, this is just a taste of the wide variety of adult titles that came out in the last year. Some games have become so mainstream that they even have celebrities like Doja Cat. Of course, I'm talking about House Party, a game that is nearly 10 years old now, where your main objective is to get laid at a party. So what happened?
That is on the Epic Game Store?
Here. What was the impetus, not only for this new wave of adult games, but also the ease in which they were accepted not only by Steam, but by the gaming world at large?
I'm going to pause for a second because I'm already flabbergasted by the breadth of this. I didn't know shit like this was on the Epic Game Store. Because I think of Steam a little bit as the Wild Wild West. They allow so much that there is just so much on there. But I think of the Epic Game Store as not nearly as many people even like it and much more highly curated.
Steam seems more of the Batman, someone had to do it kind of type.
Okay.
All right. We got to make sure the developers get money.
Okay.
I mean, really, piracy is all about convenience. And if the service is more convenient than piracy, you can pass on piracy for the most part.
Yes.
I mean, particularly when it comes to watching videos.
Yes. Yeah. Huh. Okay. All right. Continuing on.
large. When I say adult games, I'm sure some of you are like, what exactly do you mean by that, Jesse? Well, according to the ESRB, adult-only games are games that feature content suitable only for adults ages 18 and up. These may include prolonged scenes of intense violence, graphic sexual content, and/or gambling with real currency. Which, now that I think about it, I wonder if there's a market for a strip poker gambling game with guns. But I think it's safe to say that because I'm American and our messed up value system makes us completely immune to the more effed up displays of violence in games that have been happening for decades, that when I say adult, I'm talking about the more porny side of adult gaming that seems to have suddenly exploded in the last few short years. Now, I'm aware that erotic games have been around since the beginning.
Oh my
and
God, I haven't thought about that.
It's human nature. In the early 80s, as game sales began to explode, games like Beat 'em and Eat 'em, Soft Porn Adventure, and X-Man were playable on the Atari, Apple II, and DOS.
That's not the Cyclops.
As many other video game documentaries and videos on this site have explained, from 1983 to 1985, the video game market crashed in the US due to market saturation and for what many believe were just too many games that were simply bad. This is because prior to 1979, there were no real third-party video game devs. It wasn't until Activision came along, founded by 4 former Atari devs, that they began developing their own games and cartridges. Atari sued, but Activision won, and this set a precedent for third-party games manufacturers, especially with the critical success of Activision's Pitfall. Due to the success of third-party games, the total number...
Pause for a second. Partially because I'm giggling.
Okay.
The other is to compliment this because I get why this video is a target for flagging and reports. I mean, the thumbnail is
boobacious.
That's an accurate way to put it. And obviously the subject matter is steamy. Because the title is on Steam.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But oh my God, that kid actually was Jack Black. Now I'm getting sidetracked. But like it's actually like this is a proper documentary. Like this is not like a sneaky way to get inappropriate content onto YouTube. I'm not seeing anything on here that is inappropriate. Yeah. No, this is like is properly researched. Also, it hasn't made me think about the Atari crash. It's making me think of that, and I haven't thought about that in a very long time. I feel like in the early 2000s, we would talk about the Atari crash all the time. We were constantly making jokes about the failure of the ET game and that, I believe, proven myth that they buried a bunch of copies out in the desert.
True.
Yeah, they found the site. Yeah. That's every single conversation I have with YouTube about it. LOL. I'm so sorry, Jesse. Yeah, this is incredible so far.
Of Atari games grew from 100 to 400 between June 1982 and December 1982. It was during this time that we got some of the earliest dirty games. And it makes sense because since the dawn of time,
I don't even know what's happening.
Has always found a way to make their nights less lonely. Why would video games be any different? Even if it's pixelated to hell and your eyes go cross-eyed, you know when you're not supposed to see something when you see it. Unfortunately, for those dirty folks in the early 80s, the majority of these new games were bad. Like, really bad. In 1982, Byte Magazine wrote about the state of gaming at the time, saying, "Few games broke new ground in either design or format. If the public really likes an idea, it is milked for all it's worth, and numerous clones of a different color soon crowd the shelves." Which, thankfully for us, is something that stopped in the 80s. It isn't like one of those history repeats itself things, right?
I was just about to say, right? This is the perfect place to do a joke about how stale the industry of shooters is.
I was curious where, but it was shooters. Shooters was the target.
That's where my brain went. I like shooters, but
the whole console crash thing right now with a lot of the AAA's not selling? What kind of conversations happening in the background?
Selling, but it's not selling at an amount that makes up for the increased cost of development.
And the idea that investors saw the AAA title as this, it's free money, free investment. It's always going to be good kind of thing going on.
A perfect place to parlay into our Helldivers conversation, because it's like Sony, who finally made some money on a game that they also sold on PC, horribly botched it. But
whoa! Can I get them in my ecosystem? Like, how can I get them to sign up for alerts? Oh my God, that's success. But we'll talk about that
Talk
later.
about that
We'll
later.
talk about that later.
Let's get through this first.
So the games industry was flooded with trash, which led to a crash. And it took 2 years to recover, and when 1985 hit, the space had changed. At this time, the market for adult games shifted from the Atari to personal computers, which significantly impacted the market and audience size since PCs were only in 8% of households by 1985. Games during this time were things like the text-based Dr. Ruth's Computer Game of Good Sex and Centerfold Squares, which is barely a game from what I can tell. But then, in 1987,
That's a real book.
Sierra released
That's a
Leisure
helpful
Suit Larry.
novel.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
I have not.
She
I've never
wrote,
heard of
Relationships for Dummies.
Okay.
I was given it to it by my parents because I hadn't had a date and I was 16, and they gave me that book, and that hurt a bit, but I read the whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah. No, she's legit.
I was gonna say that actually seems kind of really positive of them, and
Yeah.
But I could see. I don't know the.
No, it hurt, but I read the thing. Like
Oh,
there
okay.
there was a reason why I took the advice to heart.
All right.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. No. I'm thinking. Who was the lady on like late night basic cable that had the call in sex advice show?
Delilah? What? I don't
No.
know. I have no idea who you're talking
No,
about.
that's the Plain White Tees song.
Oh, okay.
It was Dr. Ruth also had a call in show.
Okay.
Oh, so we are thinking about the same person? Oh shit. Okay. Huh. Dr. Sue? This is Dr. Ruth? Okay.
It sounds like the same person because they were legit.
That sounds.
I mean, you can go back and there was a picture of that's what they look like on the back of my For Dummies book.
There were 3 radio shows, and it was Dr. Drew, Dr. Ruth, and Delilah. Okay. All right. I'm thinking of whoever had the late night TV call in because we were just hitting like the teens, and like we thought it was so funny that like adults would call in and talk frankly about things that now I think about it's like it's healthy to be asking these questions, but I was an immature child going through puberty and I thought it was hilarious.
Well, they did remake You've Got Mail like 3 times.
They did?
Well, yeah, because it was originally Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
And
So
then-
not with the same title.
Yeah, but with the same guy. Tom Hanks was in like all those.
Anyway, Sue Johansson. That might be who I'm thinking of. I think it was Sue Johansson. Sue Johansson visited your high school? Holy shit.
That's cool.
Huh. Maybe that's why, like, I feel like we're not as, like, sexually stunted as I feel like generations before us were, and I wonder if maybe that, had a knock-on effect. Like, maybe these individual doctors, like, actually did help.
Oh, yeah.
Billy Crystal, thank you. Sorry.
If we're getting, yes, Billy Crystal, you're right. That was Sleepless in Seattle, I
Yes,
think.
that's not Tom Hanks.
But no, absolutely. Like you got the Dr. Spock kind of teaching, like it's okay to hug your child kind of thing that happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think we've made some advancements being inside each other's heads with the internet.
Yes.
But also, it's just cringy looking at it as a kid. Ew, adults are gross and weird, and they have a talk show to figure out why they're not feeling good. Like, I bet you kids say the same thing today looking at us.
Oh,
being
yeah,
healthy.
no, we watched it because we thought it was funny, but also because it felt like we were getting away with something. It's like,
Yeah.
these are adults having adult conversations, and we probably shouldn't be listening to it, but also we're immature, and ha, 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 it's funny.
But also, shut up. This is an interesting
But also,
question.
shut up. Oh, my God, what are
Shut up. Wait, I want to know. I want to know
what
about
am I-
this. This is really interesting.
Yeah. Wait, toys can be healthy? Like, yeah. Like, I distinctly remember an episode about that where I was like, wait, it's not just, okay, all right. Anyway, continuing on.
Continuing.
Also, Alberto, thank you for the generous windmill of memberships.
Thank you very much.
In the land of the lounge lizards, a point-and-click game where the objective
Oh, this
was
is
to
the
have
first
the
Leisure Suit,
titular
right?
Larry get laid. And if you're going Larry from like the confused GIF, then I don't blame you. The series hasn't been popular for years, but in the 80s and 90s, this seemed like the only franchise
early
pushing
2000s,
the
they
limits
tried
of
to resurrect
what adult
Larry.
games were capable of. This is a true story, and to my mom, who probably watched this video wondering, I wonder what Jesse's gonna talk about. I remember how excited and nervous I was the first time I booted up Leisure Suit Larry Love for Sale on my family computer. My parents were out of town. I was like, I'm gonna try this game. It felt like Mission Impossible. I had no idea when they were gonna come home. I was just like, how far can I get? The funny thing is, the first game released to no fanfare. It only sold an abysmal 4,000 copies when it was released.
Damn.
And its creator, Al Lowe, said, "My initial reaction was that I had wasted 6 months of my life." But what Al didn't know was that word of mouth began to spread about Larry and his horny escapades, and by the end of the year, it had sold over 250,000 copies, which is
Holy shit.
huge for this time period, and honestly, big today for games. However, with big sales comes big controversy. Anger over a game with sex. And you might be surprised to know this, but the Leisure Suit Larry games are not as racy as you would think.
You want to leave that on screen. That's what you want to be sitting
That's
on screen for a while.
With big sales comes big controversy.
Yeah.
Anger over a game with sex. And you
I
might
mean, honestly,
Why?
because it's poignant as shit.
Why a B1 battle droid?
Because okay, dude, let's be real here. Let's be real, 100% real here. Sometimes we say something in a video and we get a comment that we didn't talk about a thing, and we're like, "Oh my god, did you look at the visuals? The visuals clearly communicated that I, as the editor, understood this project." This is that. The editing in this video is amazing. And he's making a comment about why the hell are we targeting Leisure Suit Larry when freaking mods exist? Like,
Well, like the hot coffee was its own controversy, and Leisure Suit Larry predated that by quite a few years.
no, but I'm saying like there's a point being made. Like, this is a funny picture, but also there is a very poignant point being made, because you know we saw people, we've seen people be like, "Whoa, Roblox, ugh, blah."
So inappropriate for children.
But arcades, right? Satanic Panic, and what kind of weird ass shit did I find on BattleNet sometimes? Like we've all played some weird ass.
Yeah, I know. I
custom
remember the first time I
games.
saw a porn spray in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, like, and I think this is a very excellent point to be making at this exact moment.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
funny, but also
but I'm not sure why.
important.
Very specifically, I don't know why a
Because it's
B1
important.
battle
It's
droid.
important. It's important.
I don't know
Be
why.
surprised to know this, but the
Maybe
Leisure Suit
Bible.
Larry games are not as racy as you would think, unless you use codes, but it's mostly innuendo and implication. Something that's true for almost all the
Jesus.
games
Yeah.
from this point forward. Innuendo, maybe a boob or two, but nothing gratuitous. It was, after all, a point-and-click puzzle-solving game with rewarding challenges first, and then those rewards happened to be Larry getting laid. For every Leisure Suit Larry we got pushing the boundaries
Looks
of what
like an
games
Adult
could
Swim
be,
cartoon. It's
we
so
still
horribly
got a
drawn.
helping of games like Blue Angel 69 and Strip Poker as we move into the
wow.
era
Oh,
games
it's so
like
low
Plumbers Don't
res.
Wear Ties or Neurodancer used sexuality to sell copies. Unfortunately, it was never a lot of copies, nor did it deliver in any other capacity. Any games from this era that did deliver were just glorified porn cut into segments, and you'd have to go around trying to find the next scene. They barely were games and barely worth the money. And this continued for some time unless you were living outside the West, because in Japan, they were going crazy with their dirty games, most of which were on PC. There's no way you're gonna get those titles on Nintendo. So when Night Trap, a game that used sexuality and violence to sell itself to
I've never
Nintendo's
heard of
rival
You ever heard
Sega
of Night
came
Trap?
out,
No.
people lost their minds. We're talking congressional hearings, and you bet Nintendo and Sega were coming at each other's throats. For much of the late 90s and early 2000s,
Yeah, so Night Trap was like forbidden fruit, like all like you whisper about it on the playground for us. It was an FMV game,
FMV.
full motion video. What Jesse showed back here was footage from the game.
Oh, sure,
where,
okay.
Like they shot it on video. Where's the
Oh,
Night
so
Trap?
so like
That's Night Trap.
like the old Star Wars game where, you know, Kyle was sitting in his chair and he was a real dude and they shot film, and you know, that's
Dark Forces 1. That stuff was like bitmap, but you're thinking of like Rebel Alliance. I
Yeah.
think had FMV.
yeah, I'm familiar with a couple of them.
Yeah. But it's you like you played Alan Wake. Alan Wake uses FMV.
Yeah, they have a bit of it.
Yeah, actually to great effect.
And,
I think.
and Control had it too.
Yes. Yeah, I love the way they do that. They do that shit. But yeah, no.
Okay.
Night Trap was like you whisper about it, like one kid, and you all just assumed he was lying. Said he played it, and like no one else did.
Sure.
My parents were really good about vetting video games to my detriment. Like I spent a year convincing them to let me play Mortal Kombat, like and rent it and bring it home from Blockbuster. So yeah, I don't remember how I won, but like there was never. I was always like, "What is Night Trap? Oh my god, it sounds so like edgy." Like, and you were going when Mortal Kombat hit the scene for our generation and blood and violence. It's like that was the cool thing. You were a cool kid if your parents let you play Mortal Kombat. I knew there was no way in hell I was ever gonna. Still to this day, I've never played Night Trap, and at this point, I'm just not all that interested.
So what's the like? What time period? Because we had Newgrounds available to us.
This was pre-Newgrounds.
This
was way pre. Yeah,
because you could just go to any computer and turn it into
for me
slot machine.
I remember Night Trap being before like really any of us had open access to the internet.
Okay. All right. So this was very much found a VHS sort of territory.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, 93 is when it came out. Yeah, I know it was early 90s. I don't have the
Wow.
exact year. But yeah, this was like we were young. But yeah, it's like a breaking and entering. From what I understand, it's pretty trashy and was it was like lived and died by its just shock value for the time. And you go and look at it now and you're like, I've watched horror movies that are way worse than this.
But it was easy to reduce it down to a very scandalous statement.
Because it was for video games and because video games were so clearly like they were really in the bucket of this is for kids at the time. So even though, as Jesse is clearly pointing out, there's always been games made strictly for an adult audience.
I remembered the same thing with the rise of adult animation. Family Guy, South Park.
Yeah.
Like, how can this is going to confuse the children?
I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Same
And
thing
then South Park. Ooh, how dare you? The longest I ever got grounded was because, like Jesse's Mission Impossible, I got caught watching South Park at home. My dad straight up took my television, which back then was hard to do, out of the room. That thing was heavy. I didn't see that TV for 3 months.
Okay. I see. We're all learning things.
And I want it known. I broke a lamp over my brother's arm, and actually, like, he had to get stitches. I got grounded for longer for watching South Park than maiming my actual brother.
Was it an accident?
It was an accident, but at the time, I remember my parents not acting like they realized it was an accident.
I believe
they were furious.
You were participating in willful disobedience is the problem.
Yeah.
There.
Are you asking me if I knowingly took a lamp and tried to murder my brother with it?
Well, no, I'm actually
because no,
dude. You may be aware. I don't mean to say, dude, like I need to like reduce this down, and be like, dude. But like, as a parent, I am very interested in cause and effect.
Those moments.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, what would I do in this situation?
No, we were wrestling and I've always been the bigger brother. Yeah, I kind of like threw him into the dresser, and the lamp fell on top of him and shattered on his arm.
Wow,
and, like, caused a gash. Yeah, it was.
But it's an accident, right?
Yeah, it was an accident. But at the moment, let me tell you, I did not feel, and still to this day, I feel like my parents came down on me harder than they should have.
So here's an example of something that happened recently.
Mom and Dad, if you're watching, you were a little hard on me for that one.
So we had a water bottle, and it got thrown, and you need actionable consequences, right?
Yes.
And so actionable consequence would be, all right, I'm going to take away the water bottle for us today, and I froze. Because children need water to live. And if I took away the water bottle the rest of the day, what's the actionable consequence I should perform in this very situation? The proper thing is I will supply you with water in a small plastic cup the rest of the day, and you will still get water. But I was completely frozen in the situation.
Well,
and not sure how to act.
You can't withhold water.
No, exactly.
You can withhold television.
But, you want actionable consequences for the things that your children do.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
You can have your adult class when you prove to me you can use it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, back to one of my favorite memes of all time. I love Community.
Lost their minds. We're talking congressional hearings. And you bet Nintendo and Sega were coming at each other's throats. For much of the late 90s and early 2000s, adult games were relegated to PC or imported from other countries. This included extremely violent games like Doom or Mortal Kombat. Those being about exploding bodies, so I guess that was okay, and eventually they got ported to consoles. But the saucier games, they stayed on PC. If you pull up Wikipedia and check a list of adults-only rated games, you'll notice that it's almost all Windows. But how adult were these adult-only games really? Games like BMX XXX and the Guy game marketed their games as spicier than they really were, using the classic high-level marketing method of plastering a hot woman all over the game. To give you some idea of what people thought about games like that at the time, when Playboy The Mansion came out, the game where you run the Playboy Mansion, the New York Times wrote, "Sex and nudity often work well in movies, but video games laced with sex never rise above mediocrity. And Mansion seems decidedly underbaked."
That's
the Detroit Free Press said, "I flipped on the game expecting a world of champagne, roses, and frequent wisps of steam. Instead, I got an immediate request that I construct an office on the mansion's upper floor." So you can probably see now that this era of adult games has been reined in. Gone is the era of freaky little Atari games for freaky little Atari horn dogs. However, as the internet grew in popularity in the mid-2000s, a new format Java entered the fray. And with this
Okay.
came a deluge of short
Oh, here we
games and
go.
websites
Oh, man, I
hosting
played
them.
that
As
Here's
more
what
and
you were
more of
talking
these
about.
games were created by people like IT students and hobbyists. Knowledge of these little online games spread on websites like eBaum's World and Newgrounds. If you're old enough to have used those, you know that besides wacky humor and strange animation,
All right, Jesse,
Oh my God, no!
I'm very mad at you right now.
Not the unicorn.
I'm very mad at you right now. Also, this is one of my least favorite of the era.
there was
Charlie the
so
Unicorn.
much dirty content. In this time period, before the rise of YouTube, having viewers actually became profitable with some of those dirtier artists, gaining notoriety and monetization through promoting their personal websites, services, etc. Thus, the zeitgeist among the community became, maybe I could do this too. Meanwhile, in the mainstream market of games, any game that featured a little bit of nudity was still seen as unnecessary or just a means to sell copies. I don't know how many of you remember this, but people thought the Mass Effect games were going to be extra saucy and spicy, and the only things they were exposed to were meaningful relationship dynamics and love-making scenes that faded to black and had no nudity. And then, in
I remember- I'm
2011,
gonna
The
pause.
Witcher 2 was released.
I remember being, because I got on board with Mass Effect. I didn't have an Xbox original, so I never played like Jedi Empire or the Old Republic or any of that, or KOTOR, specifically the Old Republic CMMO. Yeah, I remember not even knowing that relationship mechanics were a thing in Mass Effect, and then after playing it all the way through 3, being like, oh yeah, damn, this rules. I love the relationship aspect of this. And then getting Dragon Age Inquisition and being like, holy shit, there's nudity in this. Because there wasn't nudity
Was
in Mass Effect. At least in the scene where you romance the Crusader. Lady.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there was like a boob.
Yeah. And I was, I was an adult at that point. I had seen
Yes,
things at that
That
point.
is not shocking.
So it shouldn't have shocked me, but I was like, holy shit, they did it.
Yeah,
BioWare
they
did
went
it,
for it.
everybody. Yeah. Yeah. No, I did not date Ashley. Who dates Ashley? Monsters date Ashley. I judge you. I judge you if you romance
people
Ashley.
who don't, let's be serious, people who don't know Mass Effect 2 exists date Ashley because like she's the only available option.
No, because you have the doctor.
I don't think you actually can get with Liara in 1.
I don't know what the end point is because I've never gone to that point, but I know I've definitely almost accidentally gone further than I wanted to with Liara in Mass Effect 1.
Oh, can you? Well, maybe that's why they were so
You
excited.
can? Yeah, because I played the remaster and I was just playing the game, and then it clearly was at a point where it's like, you're gonna romance Liara, and I was like, oh no, that's not what I'm here for.
Interesting.
Liara does rule, and honestly, if probably would have been like, I really do like that character, and I could see myself, making different choices going down that road. But yeah. Anyway, no, you have Liara in Mass Effect 1. Yeah, I know. You can't imagine a world where you don't romance Tali. But,
Yeah, well, I tried my hardest, but there was no.
yeah, not Tali in Mass Effect.
No
Kyle
advancement.
actually wants to romance Taliesin. That's who Kyle.
That's
wants
what
to
I'm saying. No,
romance.
Tali, you can't get with. You just talk
Yeah.
to her endlessly in 1.
Yeah, exactly. But Miranda, exactly. BUTT Miranda.
Released. It had no nudity.
a second.
And then in 2011, The Witcher 2 was released. It was amazing. The combat, the story, the absolute adult nature of the game.
Yep.
Not the
Skip
porny
rules.
stuff. I'm talking about a game that was clearly made for adults with adult subjects. But it was also dirty as hell. As far as I can recall, it was the first time I saw a modern major release with, dare I say it, nipples? Sure, it wasn't really a major floodgate moment. CD Projekt Red wasn't as big as it is now. But in 2012, when Mass Effect 3 came out, suddenly Liara's showing a bit more skin. Witcher 2 seemed like an aberration in the gaming space because adult games still existed in this kind of weird, this is for the creeps part of the internet. Then that all changed. CD Projekt returned with one of the best games ever made, The Witcher 3, which had many of the same adult themes as the previous entry, but cranked up to 11. This was a
never
game that not only
accidentally
impressed with
romanced more
gameplay,
people
but
than
also
Witcher
the
3.
story, the music, the graphics. In my eyes, this was the first time a majority of gamers ever experienced a full love story without fading to black or weird camera angle crops. Two characters who were real, just, in a fantasy environment. It was honest with what it was, and that blew people away. As of today, it's sold over 50 million copies. I still think about that Conan O'Brien Clueless Gamer where he's like, this is the greatest game ever made.
That was a decent show. I like that.
First off, delivery there, the same delivery of this is the greatest game ever made as when Jesse heard your Xenoseeds the Moon theory.
Yeah.
If you go back and rewatch that clip.
I want to rewatch it too because he did eat the mother crystals, and I'm kind of like, I want to like analyze that moment a little bit.
Secondly, this is a bad reaction. I don't really have much to say here other than thank you for saying all this, Jesse, because I completely agree with you. You're absolutely right that Witcher 3 is like when we were all like, oh, romance and sex can be effective storytelling devices in games, and it can make sense here like it makes sense in other media.
I feel very strongly that a world can seem hollow if you have extreme violence and there's not anything of life in there. And I think Game of Thrones did that well during its time. Like the sex position worked because there was this extremely dark world, and you need to have pleasure and ways to avoid it.
Game of Thrones was, I thought a mixed bag. I think some of its romance scenes worked really well, and others was like clearly for shock value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was annoyed by the ones that were for shock value, and enjoyed the ones that actually did propel the story forward.
Well, and for me, it's like no different than the call you make to invite someone up to your room in Mass Effect 2, because you're going through the Omega relay. Like, there's a reason why that sex is happening there and not earlier in the story.
Never thought about it that way, but
it's a stressful situation.
Yeah.
There's a reason why James Bond is rolling around with someone at the end or in the middle or at the beginning, because James Bond. But, you know, he has a stressful job. And that's why it works. And why it doesn't work in XXX when he's like, I love this.
I feel like you're elevating a lot of the James Bond beyond where it should. Maybe in the Daniel Craig stuff, but like we literally had the Dame Judi Dench making a pump her for information joke in the Brosnan era.
Judi Dench is a classy lady,
It's not always elevating the story.
No. My point being, though, that if you have extreme violence and literally witches eating people like The Witcher 3 had, and they're sexy, there's an element of like, whoa, this works. Why does it work? And I think that's why, because you have life and death in parallel.
Yeah. Well, also like having something be sexy can be part of the theme or the theme by itself.
Yeah.
Like sexy for sexiness sake can just be something you're going for. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. You can go about it poorly, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Let's continue with Jesse's thoughts.
Got Conan, y'all, and he is not into games. This single game crushed the concept that you couldn't sell a game or get a positive critical response if it had adult content. Because turns out all you had to do was make a good game. Crazy. Let me tell you, 50 million copies sold is a lot of money. And when people see money, they get crazy ideas, especially in the games industry. Like, let's make a game that's exactly like this too.
And I'm aware of that one.
Companies took inspiration from the success of Witcher 3. The idea that you couldn't do adult things like talk about sex or have sex or show sex while also cutting off limbs and blowing up guys was a thing of the past. And it just so happens that around this time, that Steam started to allow indie devs to publish whatever games they wanted after they shut down their Greenlight service. Suddenly, the taboo of nudity began to vanish in the gaming world, especially since in Japan they were still pumping out porn games like crazy and now had a new market to sell to. By 2018, it was noticeable that more and more dirty games were showing up on Steam, and suddenly, outrage showed its head once more. This time in the form of anti-porn lobbyists who actively campaigned against games being on Steam. This led to the company reacting by sending takedown notices to many devs. Games like Honey Pop and Mutiny, your run-of-the-mill anime boob games that were very popular, were of course the main target. The uproar that followed this decision, though, was unexpected. The amount of people who wanted to keep adult games on the platform. Steam's reaction was to back off completely with a statement that basically said, sorry, we're just trying to prevent troll games. We didn't mean to try and remove these real games with real fans. Our bad. And with this Gaben-blessed hands-off approach, the floodgates opened. The regulations suddenly became, do people buy it? Is it an actual game and not just trash? And does it have good reviews? If it fits those three categories, then it's good to go. And since that moment and the following pandemic that forced a lot of people to stay inside, it seems that we've had more and more adult games appearing on Steam. Not just Steam, actually, straight up the front page. And the more that people played, the more the algorithms pushed. And while the games may have not stayed on the front page for more than a day, other indie devs saw this and said, we we could probably do something similar and make some money. The audience will always be there. And
No wonder
trust me
you
when I
and
say
Jesse
I
get
know
along.
plenty of artists whose most popular content is a little more erotic. Hell, YouTube thumbnails with boobs get more clicks than those without. That's probably why, if you got this far, your lecherous eyes saw this video to begin with. But much like a good video game, I hope you're staying through this video because
Or maybe why you weren't served this, because people
Yeah.
saw it and...
A bold claim.
How dare you!
I'm upset. I'm furious.
Yes.
it's a good video and it's interesting and giving you something more than just an interesting thumbnail.
That's
so
how he
once you
made it
just
right there.
really understand how people work, it all becomes pretty simple to wrap your mind around. Look at Overwatch. Overwatch is a game where you run around and you shoot
he went
people.
there.
It's
I was wondering if we were
whatever.
going here.
But what Blizzard did was create characters that someone could fall in love with. They made a character for everybody. And what is, for the vast majority of humans living on the planet, the outcome of intense love? Sex. And so, of course, for many years running, Overwatch porn has been dominant on adult websites. Baldur's Gate
I don't
3,
know.
what myself and many, many others consider
Tag
the
system?
best game of 2023, is about saving a town from certain doom with D&D rules. However, at its core is relationships with your character, the other characters, the various NPCs you meet, and in those you can spark romantic ones. And again, the outcome of those romantic relationships is often sex.
that
It
your
doesn't make
playthrough?
it dirty or wrong, it makes it natural. We no longer live in a society, especially here in the West, where you have to move the beds apart if you show a couple sleeping together on TV. It's not arbitrary rules for the sake of censorship. We as a society are ready, willing, and honestly asking for it. It's a tale as old as time. Sex.
What a
Sells.
transition.
That was it. That's why
Jesus.
Disney came after him. That was it.
Jesse,
Yeah.
that is such a tight video.
That is
That's
really
fantastic.
well made. Holy
Good
shit.
damn job.
Wow, man, there was so many high effort edits in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hats off to your editor and hats off to you for putting
Excellent
this together
topic.
and writing it. That's
done.
God, 15 minutes. That is tight, in and out. Fantastic ending. Yeah. One might call that transition the money shot.
It was a fine transition.
Yeah. Freaking great. Everyone, please watch this. Please watch this video again on your own time. Give it a view. Give it a like. I'm gonna do so right now for my own personal account. Which, boy, I can't wait to see my algorithm at the end of this.
Oh, it's fine. You've probably watched enough car videos. It won't even move the needle.
That's a very good point. Although I watched like one. What did I watch? I watched one video about a car YouTuber I like, but his home was featured on a housing channel, and now I'm getting a ton of mid-century modern house videos, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to see this.
Interesting.
I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And then it's been 2 weeks now. Anyway, hope your front page is just all your videos now. Oh, I was thinking it's going to be all like sexy videos, but yeah. I mean, what is a Jesse Cox video if not a sexy video?
I do want to watch the Jailer one that everyone keeps.
Oh yeah, I know. I definitely
in
do.
a weird like archaeological kind of way of like I care so little, but this was a time period in time when people did care. You know, that's exciting.
Yeah.